Here's the rewritten story, with the changes you asked for. After Patricia Hamilton, an HOA director, showed up screaming about my tiny farm burn pile, I thought she was just being ridiculous. The police officer's face when he arrived said it all. But what happened next revealed something far more sinister happening in our farming community. Picture this: a crisp morning on my family's 200-acre farmland, which my grandfather carved from the wilderness in 1932. But today, something was different. The air felt charged with an unnatural tension. Strange luxury cars had been circling like vultures, and our elderly neighbors were vanishing one by one, without a trace. My routine spring cleanup suddenly felt like walking into a trap. A tiny brush pile of cornstalks and apple trimmings, smaller than a child's bonfire, would become the match that burned down an entire criminal empire. For generations, our farm followed the same sacred ritual: spring cleanup. A time-honored tradition passed down through blood and sweat. This tiny brush pile was more than debris. It was a connection to my father's teachings, to our family's legacy. But today, something sinister lurked beneath the surface. The black SUV prowling our perimeter, the woman in her $1,000 suit, her camera capturing every inch of our land like a predator mapping its hunting ground. Every instinct screamed that this was no ordinary morning. This was a carefully orchestrated ambush. My farm is pristine, my pride and joy. The freshly painted barns, the neatly trimmed hedges, even the mailbox shines in the morning sun. 30 years of maintaining every inch of this place to perfection. The other farmers call me obsessive, but that's what 3 generations of family tradition looks like. Little did I know, this perfectly normal morning was about to turn into the most bizarre day of my farming career. What's been happening in our farming community lately just doesn't sit right. You see, 6 months ago, this fancy new HOA, Valley View Estates, started buying up properties on the outskirts of our farmland. Not unusual these days, but something felt off about their aggressive expansion. Old William Henderson, who'd been farming next door for 50 years, suddenly sold his place and moved without saying goodbye. Then the Petersons, both in their 70s, disappeared overnight. Their grandson came looking for them last week. Apparently, they never arrived at their Florida retirement home. Being a former county commissioner myself, I know how these things usually work, but this was different. Strange cars parked along our access road at night. I installed security cameras after finding fresh footprints in my fields one morning. The photos they captured would make your skin crawl, men in suits measuring my property line at 3 a.m. Just yesterday, I received this fancy letter claiming my farm now falls under their expanded jurisdiction. Let me tell you something. I've read every local ordinance during my 12 years as commissioner. There's no such thing as emergency HOA authority over established agricultural land. That's why I was extra careful this morning, following every single regulation for our seasonal cleanup. 30 yards from any structure, fire extinguisher ready, proper wind conditions, just like I've done hundreds of times before. I even called the fire department to notify them, like always. The dispatcher knows me by name, just the usual spring cleaning, Bob. But those luxury cars kept driving by, slowing down near my property, taking pictures, making notes, acting like they'd never seen a farmer tend to his land before. For 3 decades, I've worked the soil, watching developers and HOAs come and go, but something about these folks made my old commissioner instincts scream that trouble was coming. If only I knew just how right those instincts were. I heard her before I saw her, the sound of tires screeching to a halt on our gravel road. A gleaming black Mercedes SUV, probably worth more than a year's crop, throwing dust all over my freshly washed truck. Out steps this woman in what had to be $1,000 suit, designer sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. The moment she laid eyes on my tiny burn pile, you'd think she'd discovered a raging forest fire. She whips out her phone, starts filming, narrating like she's documenting a natural disaster. This is it, clear violation, dangerous, unauthorized burning. Look at this inferno, threatening our development. I couldn't help but chuckle. This inferno wouldn't toast a marshmallow from 2 feet away. But her reaction told me something wasn't right. Nobody gets this worked up over a legal burn pile unless they've got other motives. She marches across my property like she owns it, her high heels sinking into my soft farmland with every step. That's when I decided to start recording, too. 30 years of farming taught me one thing. When someone's this aggressive, you better have evidence. "Do you have any idea who I am?" she demands, waving some official-looking papers in my face. "I am the executive director of the Valley View Estates HOA Emergency Response Team." Never heard of it. In fact, in all my years as county commissioner, I'd never heard of any HOA having an emergency response team. She's getting more dramatic by the second, pacing back and forth, calling someone on her phone. "Yes, send everyone immediately. This is exactly what we've been waiting for, the perfect violation." Perfect violation? Something about the way she said that sent chills down my spine. Now she's reading from some document, claiming my farm has been rezoned under their jurisdiction. According to her, I have exactly 1 hour to extinguish this dangerous hazard and sign transfer papers, or they'll begin immediate seizure proceedings. Transfer papers? Seizure? Over a tiny brush pile? But here's what really caught my attention. While she's waving her arms around, pointing at my blazing inferno, I notice something odd. She keeps glancing at the neighboring properties, the ones where our elderly farmers mysteriously disappeared, almost like she's checking something off a list. I maintain my calm, just letting her perform for her camera, but inside, my mind is racing. Those strange cars at night, the missing neighbors, this obviously staged confrontation, it's all starting to form a pattern, a disturbing pattern. Then she pulls out what looks like a court order. Even from a distance, I can tell something's not right about it. After 12 years reviewing county documents, you develop an eye for these things. The letterhead, the seal, it's all slightly off. The fire department's already been notified. I tell her calmly. She freezes for a split second, just a fraction of a moment, but I catch it. That's not the reaction of a concerned HOA official. That's the look of someone whose plan just hit an unexpected snag. Little did she know I had one more card to play. I reached for my phone to make a call that would turn this entire situation on its head. The police cruiser pulls up just as she's finishing her dramatic phone call. Officer Mike Johnson. I recognize him from my commissioner days, 20-year veteran of the force. The look on his face when he steps out of his car is priceless. He tips his cap back, squinting at the tiny pile of smoldering brush, then at the woman, still filming and shouting about an inferno. "Ma'am, you reported an emergency situation." Mike's voice has that special tone cops use when they're trying not to show their disbelief. She launches into her performance again, gesturing wildly at my dangerous, illegal burning operation. Mike catches my eye, and I can see him fighting back a smile. "Sir, you want to tell me what's going on here?" he asks me, deliberately casual. Before I can answer, she interrupts, rushing forward with her stack of documents. That's when it happens. Her designer purse catches on her sleeve, and everything spills across my gravel driveway. Mike moves to help her, but then freezes. His hand moves instinctively toward his gun. I see it too. Scattered among her papers are multiple ID cards, each with different names, but the same photo, property documents with signatures that look suspiciously similar, a stack of pre-printed violation notices with my address already filled in. "Don't touch anything." Mike's voice has changed completely. This isn't the friendly local cop anymore. This is a veteran officer who's just stumbled onto something big. She tries to sweep everything back into her purse, but Mike's already calling for backup. "You don't understand." She starts stammering, her confident HOA director persona crumbling. "This is all perfectly legal. I have authorization." But her hands are shaking as she tries to show more documents, and these ones look even more suspicious than the last. That's when we hear another vehicle approaching, a black SUV, the same kind I'd seen taking photos at night. It slows down at my gate, then suddenly accelerates when the driver spots the police cruiser. Mike immediately radios in the plate number. She's getting desperate now, changes tactics completely. Look, we can work something out here. This is all just a misunderstanding, but Mike's been in law enforcement too long to fall for that. He's carefully photographing every document on the ground, paying special attention to what looks like a list of names and addresses. I step closer and my blood runs cold. I recognize those names, elderly farmers from around the county. Next to each name is a check mark and what looks like a property value. William Henderson's name is there. So are the Petersons. And right at the bottom of the list, not yet checked off, my name. The backup Mike called for arrives, 2 more patrol cars. She's trying to reach her phone now, but Mike stops her. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step away from that purse and keep your hands where I can see them. Just then, my own phone rings. It's the fire department, returning my earlier notification call. As I answer it, I watch her face. The moment she hears me say, Fire Chief Williams, something changes in her expression, like watching a house of cards collapse. You actually notified the fire department, she whispers, more to herself than to us. That wasn't supposed to. They said no one ever, and that's when the real truth starts spilling out, faster than the contents of her purse and far more damaging. Mike's examining one of the fake HOA badges when his radio crackles to life. The plate number from that black SUV? It's registered to a shell company that's been under investigation for 6 months. Elderly Fraud Division has been trying to connect the dots on missing farmers across 3 counties. The woman's getting fidgety now, especially when Mike starts reading names from that list. William Henderson, forced sale after fraudulent code violations. The Petersons, same pattern. All these properties sold for pennies on the dollar to the same development company. He looks up at me. A company that doesn't seem to exist. She tries one last desperate play, reaches for her phone, claiming she needs to call her supervisor. Instead, she hits what must be a speed dial. We catch fragments of the call before Mike can stop her. Code red. Johnson Farm compromised. The voice on the other end sounds panicked before the line goes dead. That's when dispatch radios in something that makes Mike's face turn stone-cold serious. They've just found William Henderson in a nursing home 2 states away, confused, with no memory of selling his farm. His signature on the sale documents was forged. The Petersons, same story, different state. Sir, Mike turns to me, all business now. When did you say you first noticed cars photographing your property? As I tell him about the late-night surveillance, the pieces start falling into place. The fake HOA was never about property violations or burning permits. They were gathering intel, identifying targets, elderly farmers living alone on valuable land. Their method was brilliant in its simplicity: create a fake HOA, fabricate violations, pressure elderly residents with threats of fines and legal action. Most victims signed away their farms just to escape the harassment. Those who resisted got targeted with more aggressive tactics. More patrol cars are arriving now. I recognize some faces from my commissioner days: State Police, FBI, Elderly Fraud Division. Turns out my tiny brush pile just lit up something much bigger than anyone expected. The woman's tough act is completely gone. She's sitting in the back of Mike's cruiser, watching as more evidence gets cataloged. Documents scattered from her purse reveal the whole operation: fake court orders, forged deeds, property assessments with ridiculously low values. Then Mike finds something that breaks the case wide open: a laptop in her Mercedes. The screen lights up to reveal a map of the county with certain farms marked in red, a database of elderly property owners complete with surveillance photos and personal information. And there, in a folder labeled Priority Targets, drone footage of my farm from just last night. You don't understand, she calls out through the cruiser window. These old farms are holding up progress. We're offering them a way out. But her words fall flat as agents uncover more evidence of their real methods: harassment, intimidation, elder abuse, all hidden behind the respectable facade of an HOA. A small crowd of neighbors has gathered by now. Word travels fast in farming communities. I see the shock on their faces as they learn the truth. This wasn't just about my farm or my brush pile. This was an organized operation targeting the heart of our community. Mr. Johnson, one of the FBI agents, approaches me, holding more documents from the laptop. We're going to need your help identifying some of these other potential victims. He spreads out photos of more farms, more elderly owners. The scope of what they were planning sends chills down my spine. That's when we hear sirens in the distance. A lot of them. And they're getting closer. Those approaching sirens, they're not coming for us. They're racing to 6 other farms across the county. While we've been standing here, the FBI has been coordinating the largest elder fraud bust in state history. Turns out my little brush pile was the thread that unraveled their whole operation. The woman in Mike's cruiser suddenly starts shouting, demanding her phone call, but her phone's already ringing, lit up with incoming calls from blocked numbers. The FBI agent silences it, logging each number as evidence. Your associates already know, he tells her. Right now, teams are executing search warrants at every property you've stolen. That black SUV that sped away? They found it abandoned at the county line, inside a laptop filled with even more evidence, spreadsheets tracking millions in stolen property values, offshore accounts, a list of potential targets. My name wasn't just on their list. I was their test case for a new, more aggressive strategy. Through my gate, we watch a convoy of law enforcement vehicles heading toward town. The FBI agent's radio crackles with updates. They found a makeshift office in an abandoned barn, boxes of fake documents, printing equipment, surveillance gear, everything needed to create the illusion of HOA authority. You're making a huge mistake. The woman tries one last time. We have connections, powerful people. She stops mid-sentence as a familiar face steps out of an unmarked car. Special Agent Roberts, my old friend from my commissioner days. The look on her face says it all. She recognizes him from somewhere, and not in a good way. Remember me? Roberts asks her. 2 years ago, different state, different HOA scam. We've been building this case since you slipped through our fingers in Florida. He turns to me. Your fire permit notification is what got our attention first. Someone who followed proper procedures through their whole timeline off. The evidence keeps mounting. More patrol cars arrive with documents seized from other locations. The scope of their operation is staggering. Dozens of elderly victims across multiple states, millions in stolen property, all hidden behind the respectable facade of homeowners associations. Neighbors are arriving now, drawn by the commotion. I recognize faces from farms down the road, people who'd been getting similar harassment, who'd been too scared to speak up. They watch in stunned silence as agents carry out box after box of evidence. Then comes the moment that breaks it all open. One of the FBI agents calls Roberts over to the Mercedes. They found a hidden compartment under the seat. Inside, passports, IDs, and a thumb drive. Robert's face turns grim as he reviews the files. This goes higher than we thought. Way higher. The woman in the cruiser deflates completely when she sees what they found. No more demands, no more threats. She starts talking fast, names, dates, locations, a nationwide network of fake HOAs all targeting elderly landowners, shell companies, corrupt officials, offshore accounts. But what she reveals next stops everyone in their tracks. This wasn't just about stealing farms. Those properties were just the first phase. The real plan, something that would have changed the face of rural America forever, and all of it, every bit of their scheme, came crashing down because of one small detail they never expected. A farmer who insisted on doing things by the book, right down to getting a permit for his tiny brush pile. BY Sunset, my quiet farm has become the command center for something unprecedented. Farmers I've known my whole life are coming forward with stories of harassment, each one matching the pattern. The FBI set up a temporary office in my barn, taking statements, connecting dots that span 3 decades of fraud. Old William Henderson's grandson is here now, tears in his eyes, as agents confirm they've located his grandfather. The Petersons' daughter arrives with boxes of suspicious HOA letters they'd received. Every story adds another piece to the puzzle, revealing just how close our community came to being erased. Roberts is coordinating with authorities across state lines. The recoveries have already begun, properties transferred back to rightful owners, hidden assets frozen. The woman who thought she could intimidate me with my tiny brush pile, she's turning state's evidence, revealing names that make the federal agents' eyebrows rise. But here's what really matters: watching my neighbors band together, sharing information, protecting each other. Farmer Wilson's brought his famous coffee, the Miller sisters are organizing files, young Tim from the dairy farm is setting up a database to track recovered properties. This isn't just about catching criminals anymore, it's about rebuilding our community. The State Farming Association arrives, legal team in tow. They're already drafting new protections for agricultural lands, no more fake HOAs, no more fraudulent violations. My small act of following proper burn procedures, it's becoming template language for protecting other farmers. As night falls, we gather in my kitchen, farmers, agents, local officials. The plans being made here will ripple through rural communities nationwide, a task force to protect elderly landowners, a database to track suspicious HOA activity, a hotline for farmers to report harassment. Remember that list of priority targets they found? We're turning it into something else, a list of protected farms, a network of neighbors watching out for each other. The very thing they plan to use to destroy us is becoming our tool for preservation. The last light of day catches that tiny brush pile, now long cold. To think their entire criminal empire crumbled because they tried to use it against me. Sometimes the smallest thing done right can have the biggest impact. A microscopic farm fire, something a child could extinguish with a single breath, became the burning fuse that detonated a multimillion-dollar criminal conspiracy. In the delicate ecosystem of rural America, the smallest seed of truth can topple the mightiest structures of corruption. This isn't just a story about a farmer and an HOA. This is a testament that justice isn't measured by the size of your resources, but by the unwavering courage to stand your ground when the system tries to silence you. In the end, justice prevailed. The elderly farmers across several states were found, safe, and their properties were returned to them. The corrupt officials and individuals involved in the scheme were arrested and faced numerous charges, including fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy. The Valley View Estates HOA was dissolved, and new laws were enacted to prevent similar scams from happening in the future, protecting farmers and their land. My farm became a symbol of resistance and a beacon of hope for rural communities everywhere. The sense of community was stronger than ever, with neighbors looking out for each other and a renewed respect for the land and the traditions it held.